In this video, I'm going to be making a garden bench out of pallet wood. Thanks for clicking play. Welcome to my bomb shelter basement workshop. I've got another order that I need to do, so I'm taking a break from my planned projects to get this finished. Now this is actually order number 3 because I had to do another coffee table last week. So for this project I've got to make it suitable to go outside. It's going to be delivered, so I've got to make it easy to assemble once it gets there. And I really need to keep the cost down, so I'm going to be making an outdoor bench from pallet wood. So let's get into it.
I found this really nice pallet, so first we got to strip it down and see what's usable. So here's my original plan. Big pieces on the outside, small pieces on the inside, and slats of wood going in the middle. It was looking good, but then I realised if I stick all these big pieces of wood together, it's going to be super heavy and I need to keep the weight as low as possible for delivering this thing. So I used the small ones on the outside, put some smaller pieces on the inside, and these lined up perfectly. So it was time to start making the frame. After trimming my outside pieces to the right size, I realised a couple of them were split, so I had to fix that first.
I really wanted to do box tail joints on these corners because I'd never done them before and it would have looked really cool. But all the videos I've seen on YouTube involve making a jig and doing it on your table saw, and these pieces are too big to do that. So we've gone with glues and screws.
Once the frame was done, it was time to cut the wood for the top section. But I was running out of wood from the original pallet, so I had to use these pieces. They are the same thickness, but they really need cleaning up. This only got me halfway, so I had to use pieces from the original pallet, but these pieces were split, so I had to glue them back together before I could use them.
Now these pieces are all stuck back together again, I'm going to sand them so they look pretty and start assembling the top. Now they're all sanded, a lot of these are pretty rough around the edges, so I'm going to trim them down with the table saw. I really want to keep this one looking rough on the outside, but these corners are out by 0.5 millimeter and I need them to be flat, so I'm going to have to sand it. Alright, all the pieces are ready to be stuck to the top, but we have a giant gap here, and as Bob Ross would say, this is a happy accident. This thing's going to be outside. England is notorious for having a bit of rain now and then. If all the wood was tightly packed together, it's got more chance of staying on the top, then penetrating the wood and potentially rotting it over time. So we're going to leave gaps in between each one so the water can fall right through.
I started with the end pieces, putting them right up to the framework to give it stability and rigidity. But for the rest of the pieces, I was sliding these aluminium angles in to make sure the spaces were nice and parallel.
Okay, so that's the main section, the top thing done. I've still got to treat it and finish it. I'm going to do that at the end, because now we're going to do the legs.
I was almost completely out of wood by this point. This is the only stuff I've got left that's the same size. I've got to try and make it work somehow. managed to prep and cut enough wood for my legs. Each piece has a small and a big bit, and all we're going to do to start with is stick them in a right angle. Whoa. Now that we've got these sorted, each one of these is just going to sit on the side like so. But that means all the weight would be held by one screw, either going that direction or that direction, and I don't think that's very safe. So I'm going to add another piece of wood on the inside. That means the frame will sit on top of the leg as well as being attached from the side. I'm going to have to do this a little bit backwards because this is on a flat surface right here, so I need to assemble the legs now whilst everything's even, then I'm going to sand them and trim them and sort them out afterwards. Now to do the rest. Once the legs were stuck together, I ran them through the table saw to make sure the edges were perfectly flat. I thought the screws looked ugly, and I saw this tip on John Malecki's channel once: fill the holes with glue and then just sand over them, and it turned out looking pretty cool. Well, now the legs are done, it is time to, there they are, attach them, and this is being delivered, so they need to be removable, and I'm going to use bolts. I'm going to be using these furniture screws. I'm not sure if that's their name, but that's what they're called on Amazon. These should easily screw themselves into the hole you've drilled, but my hole was rough and it's right next to the wood, so I am struggling. Eventually I got it in, and I'll make better holes on the next ones. This is now a rock solid and detachable. Let's get the other ones done. The legs are attached and solid as a rock, and now I need to give it a coat of something, and then I'll show you how it looks.
There we go, another project in the bag, but I made a whopping mistake, so this one isn't going to sell. When this customer got in touch at the very start of the conversation, they sent me some very specific sizes. I bet you can see where this is going. Halfway through the conversation, she sent me some examples of benches she'd bought in the past. I went off the sizes of the benches she already had. So I've ruined this one and it's not going to go out. I might list it on Etsy, I might recycle the wood, I don't know what I'm going to do. Even though this was supposed to be quick and simple, like all my videos, it took a lot longer than I was expecting. Mainly because I was making this for someone and they hadn't seen it before. Like the previous coffee tables, they knew what they were buying. I knew exactly what I was doing. On this one, I was making something brand new that the customer hadn't seen. I wanted it to be as good as I could possibly do. And I just ended up going over the top. That being said, if I was going to do this again, I would definitely make some better joints on the corner so it looks interesting. I would treat all the slats before I put them into the wood, because you can see some light coloured gaps at the edges which really annoy me. But apart from that, it turned out pretty much how I pictured it in my head. So in fact, it turned out a little bit better than I imagined it. So that's a result, apart from it's not going to get sold. Anyway, if you made it this far, give yourself a pat on the back. If you've got any tips, questions, or suggestions, stick them in the comments below. I try to answer every single one of them. And yeah, if you could subscribe, that would be awesome as well. I'll see you in the next video.